I want to understand exactly what we mean when we say design build.
There's a shift of risk from the owner to the design builders.
Sure. How has this been revolutionizing the design build project delivery?
It all comes down to the contractual relationships.
Welcome to the BIM Student Podcast. In this podcast, we talk to leaders, followers, innovators, and adopters from our AEC industry. Like a student, I ask questions that we all wanted to ask on our digital transformation journey, but never actually did. I explore concept, products, ideas, and future possibilities in digital transformation space. Each week, I meet with an amazing guest from the industry. I look forward to learn something new, share new experiences, thoughts, and opinions, and how to make BIM journey better for everybody across the board.
In today's episode, I will be talking to Brian Skripac. Brian is a digital construction innovator with nearly 20 years of leadership, defining how people, processes, and technology come together to transform collaborative project delivery. These days, as a director of VDC at Design Build Institute of America, Brian is responsible for shaping how VDC brings optimal benefits to the design build's whole team approach to project delivery. Let's dive right into the discussion. Welcome to the podcast, Brian. I'm so glad we were able to do this today. I'm so glad you took out time to talk to me about BIM and DBIA and all good things that you guys are up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Okay, so let's start with a small introduction about you, your personal journey, and about DBIA. How did you land up at DBIA's lab?
Yeah, so my background is actually architecture by education. And then probably for about 10 years, I actually practiced in architecture, focused a lot on healthcare projects and higher ed projects, lab spaces, a lot of things like that. Partway through my career, I started teaching, and I was teaching a 3D modeling class, and I was kind of in this education mode and looking for something a little bit different to maybe do. Realizing that registration probably wasn't in my future, something that I really wanted to pursue. And I had the chance to work in the Autodesk reseller channel. And this was right as Revit was coming out and, really heavily being adopted. So I had this opportunity to go learn this amazing new tool and then take it back into the industry to all my peers and show them kind of, hey, this is what I've been learning over the last year. Look at the opportunity that we have to make this transition to what's called BIM. Here's a tool that allows us to create these models and, all of these efficiencies that we can see. And for me, it was something that it really made an impact of efficiencies that I was trying to pick up, right? I was able to see the opportunity to do things that were painstaking before and time consuming and not, highest and best use of my time or my peers' time that were there in the industry. So I did that for a short while and then very quickly transitioned back into practice and had the opportunity to become a BIM manager at the firm that I left. So having the chance to implement those tools and create those best practices and, do a lot of different work in collaboration was something that I had the chance to do. Later, I took on a role with a company that had not only was just architecture, but was also engineering and construction. And they were doing this thing called design build that I wasn't as familiar with before. But, the initial excitement was, wow, I've seen all these things that contractors are doing, models and the ways to, drive quality outcomes with a BIM. This will be a really great opportunity to do that, but also seeing how teams were able to collaborate and design build. So we were the architect, the engineer, and the builder. So we had this fully integrated team that we were able to work together under one roof in the same office and, do what we call design-led design build. So that was a really great opportunity. From there, I got to work on a lot of different design build projects moving forward and getting more and more ingrained with design build and how these efficiencies, BIM, VDC, and design build really became a perfect marriage of collaboration, teaming, and the sharing content and attending DBIA conferences, becoming a DBIA accredited professional, understanding that they happen to be looking for somebody to lead this initiative for their membership. And it was a great opportunity to make that transition and, develop a new department and a new role within the Design Build Institute of America and take on that leadership to raise awareness and educate and, take on this mantra of it. At DBIA, we talk about design, build, done right. And, now we have the opportunity to talk about virtual design and construction, VDC done right. So that's kind of where we're at today and, what we're looking to do to move the industry forward in the future.
Okay, that's great. And I would highly recommend everybody who's listening to or watching this podcast, do go and look at the DBIA website. It has loads of information. Actually, I learned a lot about the DBIA looking at the documents that you guys have on website, the resources you have on website. But first of all, I want to understand exactly what we mean when we say design build. So there's one scenario of a company where you said that company did the design engineering and they built their design too. Mm-hmm. But in a typical design build environment, is it always that it's just one company that's doing it, or it's also like different companies coming together and doing like having a consortium or something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that the design build entity can be formed. That just happened to be the kind of unique approach that our firm took at that time. So the real essence of design build is the owner has a single contract with a design builder to take on the design and construction of that owner's facility. So it is two parties and one contract to deliver those services. Okay. And then below the design builder, you have the rest of the designers and rest of the design professionals and trade partners and builders that are under that. So that's a big difference from a traditional design bid build, where you have an owner who has one contract with an architect and a separate contract with the builder. The builder doesn't come on until after the contract documents are complete. And then even at CM at risk is still an owner-architect agreement and an owner-builder agreement, even though that, builder's there earlier and there's some implied collaboration. It's not the same as that design-build entity, which could be contractor-led, designer-led. It could be a joint venture or an integrated design firm. It can be multiple different approaches, but it's really that two-party single contract owner, design builder to do design and construction services.
Okay, so it does lift off a lot of burden from the owner's shoulders to lead stuff. They just need to give directives to one entity, and then it's their job to deliver what's being asked for.
Yeah, that's a big difference, right? There's a shift of risk from the owner to the design builder. So in a design bid build agreement, the owner's warranting the quality of those documents from the design team. Whereas the design builder in the design build contract is taking that responsibility for both of those items. And so it's a big risk movement that really benefits the owner. It's an important transition for them, and certainly part of the uniqueness of that delivery model that's advantageous to them.
Okay, great. And now I want to focus more on the BIM part of these and the design technology. There are various words we use for this. We use design technology, we use construction technology, we use VDC, we use BIM, but I would just say technology in general. Sure. How has this been revolutionizing the design build project delivery? Because you've seen this model for quite some time. Yeah. So do you see how it has improved or how things have been changing over the years?
Yeah, I think the big thing, it all comes down to the contractual relationships. It's a departure, because design build is a departure from the traditional siloed structure. You have this arrangement, right? It's owner, architect, builder, and then you have the flow down after that. The architect typically holds the contract for the engineers, but they don't have any contractual relationship with the builder. So the sharing of that information isn't as open and freely distributed. Okay. So for one, because you have the design builder and everybody below that that relationship is very direct, right? Everybody funnels up to the design builder. Two, everybody with the design build team is there early on. So you have a different opportunity to set expectations. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that I've seen on my design build projects when I was in practice working on those, that you're all coming together, setting expectations that are in alignment with the owner's goals. Whereas in design, bid, build, it's the architect producing a set of construction documents for the owner that probably don't necessarily take into consideration what the build team may want to do with the model, because they're not coming in until after the fact. So by the time the builder actually sees it, the model's done, it's created, the documents are there, and they don't really understand how it was built or how they can apply it. Contrary on the design build side, you're both there and say, well, we would like to, with respect to meeting the goals of this project, we would like to be able to do X, Y, Z with the model. How can we best accommodate that? What do you need, design team? What can you put in the model for us to use? How do we all want to share and optimize this model to be usable by all parties? So you don't get into the disclaimers and transitioning models. It says, basically says, good luck. You can't rely upon it for everything, but you can use it. Those type of things. There's more of a willingness to work on the behalf of the benefit of the project and the owner. So it's never an after the fact. It's always planned out early. So I think that's a huge opportunity for increasing collaboration, teamwork, communication. As we look to bridge, design intent to constructability, we start to be able to work those things out much earlier, and there's less opportunity for negative surprises that may arise later, and being able to resolve these issues earlier in the process. It really enhances the pre-construction phase as well, because now you have everybody working kind of in the same goals in mind.
Okay, so if I understand that correctly, it's not like I am the architect, I'm producing. Well, I also have my doubts or my reservations with the LOD systems that we have developed, but that's personally me. But so I am the architect, this is my scope of work, and I'm going to just deliver you this, and this is what you have to work with. And then every time a builder's generating an RFI, there's a cost attached to it. Time there's a, so that I think is one of the big reasons there are such big slowdowns and delays in our project delivery. And also I feel that, and when I was reading through it, and this is my personal feedback, that now when the owners are becoming highly aware about what technology can do for them after not just the project has been delivered, but the virtual assets are being delivered, the model is being delivered, what they can do with that. Can they use it for AM and FM? Can they use it as a digital twin to plan things ahead of time? And in your experience, have you found that the success in that transition has been higher with the design build? And then I have a follow-up question to that too. So
yeah, I think it is. I think one of the big things from the owner's big opportunity for the owner is right at the outset of the project, they set performance requirements. And the design builder takes on the responsibility of how they are going to achieve those performance requirements. And certainly one of that can be creating a building information model that can be utilized for these use cases post-occupancy. And an owner may not have an idea how to do that, but they've put that in the requirements, and the design builder will be the one to go about figuring out how to best construct a model and populate the necessary data that's in there to achieve those goals. If you were to do that in a design bid build project, and just as you said, the architect, and it's not to put a negative light on that, their job is to deliver this set of documents. And let's say the owner comes down later once the builder's on, and the builder may say, hey, did you ever think about using this? No, I had no idea. How do you retroactively go back and implement that idea into something that was created possibly, a year earlier. The creation of that could have started a year earlier, and now say, well, how do we embed all this information? And then you have this kind of awkward approach of how to achieve that. But in a design build scenario, the owner says, we want to do this, and that team can start figuring out from day one how they're going to achieve those goals. And it makes it much easier to, one, get to those goals, and two, be able to consistently implement them, I think. And it's not that afterthought approach that we have in the past. And certainly some owners, you have a lot of very savvy owners out there who already have BIM standards in place that mandate what information's there. So, for them, delivery model maybe is not as important because they've already found the success of being able to implement those. So, but if an owner hasn't done that, certainly much easier to do in a design build format, to realize those successes of what am I going to use it from an FM standpoint? What am I going to use it from an asset management standpoint? Do I have a campus? Does GIS become important? What's my scope? Am I a single building or my entire campus? Like you see with higher ed institutions or healthcare agencies that may have dispersed locations across a city, or even public agencies that have facilities across a larger geographic region. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Okay. And how is DBIA helping support all these initiatives? I want to know more about, especially I'm from Canada. We do not have a similar organization, at least in my knowledge. And my knowledge is not the ultimate knowledge. If somebody is interested, maybe an owner or maybe a designer and a builder, they want to collaborate and be a design build entity. Yeah. How is DBIA helping them achieve that?
Yeah. So one of the big things with DBIA is we're really focused on education, awareness, and best practices. So our goals are to share and educate the design and construction and owner community on the value of design build. And, we said design build done right. What are the best practices that you need to have in place across all parties, the designers, the builders, and the owners, to really achieve success in this area? So we offer holistically education courses, we have training materials, we have contracts, and we have multiple events that we host throughout the year that are all about sharing those best practices and celebrating the successes, even with our awards program that just came out about success stories in design build. These are the tools that you need to have to make sure that this is successful. And the same is true for BIM and VDC. My role is extremely new. My department, which is just me right now, just started in October. So we're not even to a year of where we're at, but we're in process of developing a VDC primer that's really the 50,000 foot level of what is BIM and VDC, putting together a position statement, which we have both of these documents about varying topics that impact our practitioners and membership. Looking to develop education courses. We have a BIM execution planning course right now that we want to look to expand. Also talk about, how do we educate people on level of development? How do we update our contract language that's specific to BIM? And really, emerge this idea that we need a certain level of reliability on the models that we're using all of these amazing technologies to create. How do we create a reliability on that to move beyond paper as the sole form of communication, which is, just an oversimplification and, flattening of all of this data and geometry that we have. So how do we create that reliability on it so they can be used to improve the quality, the cost and the schedule of the projects that we're doing, regardless of what type of project it is.
Okay. So I think when we talked about design build, one question that just kept on resounding in my mind, the language of design build is very similar to what I have talked to various other really esteemed guests about IPD, integrated project delivery. And a lot of, I feel, ethos of both delivery systems is same. Where do we draw the line that this is an IPD and this is the DB project?
Yeah. So I think obviously the intent of both, they're both, sometimes we talk about it as the capital IPD. which is the integrated project delivery contract language. But then
Mm-hmm.
there's also the lowercase IPD, right? It's an integrated project, and design build is an integrated project delivery method as well. So I think it really comes down to a lot of the technicalities around the procurement of a project, the contractual language and risk management responsibility, and ultimately where you have the authority to do it.
Okay.
It's kind of the last one, because not all, obviously if it's a private project, the owner can choose whatever they want, but public agencies, IPD is less widely adopted. But within public agencies, design build is very well adopted. I think, 48 states you're allowed to use design build, have legislation that allow design build as a project delivery method. So it's a lot of the minutia as it gets around that. So, how do you select teams? Is it quality based and value based, or is it solely, qualities based like you see in IPD? The owner's responsibilities, like we talked before, they set the performance requirements for the project, and the design builder identifies how to achieve those. In IPD, they're now in that 3-party agreement with 2 other parties and have equal responsibility to figure out how to achieve those goals. And the owner's ability to contribute to those conversations might become much higher, right? If they don't have an architectural or engineering or construction background, that might be difficult for them to maybe really understand and be an active participant in those discussions.
Okay.
And, one other item is really looking at, price and schedule commitments. Owner gets a GMP or a lump sum agreement at a date of substantial completion where, before the project starts, right? When they get that project, they have that in a IPD contract, they have to figure that out. Those requirements haven't been set, and the owner has to pay for that work, even if it goes above and beyond what becomes the budget of it. So there's a lot of smaller details that come down to, those large buckets that we talked about when they're different. But at the heart of it, they're both very integrated. And, as we talk about capital and lowercase, right, they're very collaborative. They're very teamwork oriented. They're focused on bringing the right parties to the table early in the project, which gets past a lot of the other hurdles that we have, design bid build or CM at risk. But those are some of the differences and advantages that we see in design build over IPD.
Okay, great. So I have so many other questions, but you know what? I want to take a little bit of twist in this podcast. And this is the time for our impossible questionnaire. So fasten your seatbelt, because I am going to ask you some really difficult questions. They are all AEC related. It tests my knowledge and your knowledge. I have an unfair advantage here. I have the answers. But these questions are just for fun and just test that how little we know about the industry, the people, the profession that we are so passionate about. Like, you worked in this industry for more than 20 years. I've been in this industry for almost 15 years now. That makes me feel so old.
I know. I was thinking that myself when you said that. I'm like, yeah, it's been that long.
Right. So let's get to the impossible questionnaire. And the first question is, have you ever done airports?
No, I haven't.
Oh, then
Never had to design an airport. I have a couple colleagues through DBIA that are in aviation, but I've never had to design or construct one.
Okay, but then this is a perfect question then. So the runway orientation is made so that the landing and the takeoff are against the wind direction, along the wind direction, or perpendicular to wind direction?
Against the wind direction, right?
Yes. Yes.
I got one. Cool.
Yes. That's great. Okay, 2 more to go. Okay, in the construction seasoning of timber, why do we primarily do the seasoning? To smoothen the timber surfaces, to remove the knots from the timber logs, to increase the strength and the durability, or to improve the appearance?
I will guess B. I have no idea though.
Do you want me to repeat the option?
No, because I'm not going to know the answer.
Okay. So the answer is C, to increase the strength and the durability.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm like, Andy, you don't have to repeat it. I don't know what it is.
Okay, so this is the last question. So during the process of hydration of cement, due to increase in dicalcium silicate content in cement clinker, the heat of hydration increases, decreases, initially increases and then decreases, initially decreases and then increases.
Initially increases, then decreases?
I know, this is very confusing, right?
I know the heat, it goes up because when concrete cures, it gets hot, right?
Yeah, but this is heat of hydration.
I don't even know what that is. I don't know. I'll go with my answer of increases and decreases just so I can give an answer.
So it is C, it decreases.
Oh, well. 1 for 2 or 1 for 3. That's not bad. I got 1.
Yeah,
I feel good. I got 1.
It's not too bad. You know, the earlier podcast that I used to have, there used to be 5 of this. And then I was like, that's too much of a torture.
People leave the podcast depressed because they don't
like,
know.
Oh, you made me feel so bad about myself today.
I was glad I got the first one. I'm like, all right, this is a great start. I'm good. If I only get 1, at least I got 1.
See, I mean, this is something funny, but it's a personal thing for me. Whenever I've had any friendship, any relationship that starts off really great, does not sustain for very long. But something that starts on a rocky, like not so nice, it has stayed forever in my life. Like my husband's an example for that. Like initially when I saw him, I didn't even want him to like exist near me, and I'm married to him for like 13 years now, so
it worked out good.
Yeah, so I think I always say that this always happens whenever I have a first meeting with somebody and there are some hitches in it. I just have a feeling that this is gonna last. This professional relationship's gonna last. And if I hit it off in the first meeting with somebody, I'm like, man, I just wish this does not blow up.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I think we had a good first meeting, but hopefully that's not like a downside. I'm like, I've enjoyed our conversation, so hopefully we keep going.
So yeah, I hope so too. Anyways, so let's come back to our DBIA discussion and the BIM discussion. Obviously, you're very passionate about both the project delivery method, design build, and the BIM integration, the VDC integration. We want to focus now on the last part of our discussion, which is the rose, bud, and thorn. And that is, rose means the benefit for today, bud means the benefit that we're seeing in future, and the thorn is the challenge or the side effect of adopting BIM in a design build project delivery.
So I think the rose, we have a lot of benefits that we're currently seeing today, right? I think we've kind of got over that initial hurdle. We see, the efficiencies in design, producing documents, they're, more well coordinated. We see the efficiencies of how contractors have, really grown the pre-construction phase and, coordination, trade coordination, finding out issues early on. As we move down, we see owners now taking advantage of this. They know that this helps post-occupancy and operation. So we've had all of these, individual benefits across that project continuum. So those are pretty well documented, but I think it's also about how do we supersize those, right? What are the new technologies? What are the next things that are there? I've always found one of the challenges being getting beyond just the technology conversation and doing something that's new and, but really understanding how do we apply these things to our current challenges. With DBIA, we talk about people, process, technology, very specifically in that order. What challenge is somebody having? How do you define a process to solve that challenge and then identify the right tool that fits into it? So I think the next level is we see all of these amazing emerging technologies and we're seeing things from different industries. We see, mixed reality and AR. We see this idea of a digital twin, the word, digital twin, which I think has its own ambiguity and multiple meanings in the industry right now. AI, robotics, all of these other things. There's this amazing amount of things that are out there that can improve our industry. How do we, that momentary step to say, all right, what are our current challenges and how do we take and apply these things? Because they're all there, they all provide benefit. So that future state is, how do we get there now? I think that's one of the exciting things. Like, even though we make better building information models, we understand all of these use cases, there's still, wealth of ways that we can improve our process with these tools that are out there. So that's what's exciting to me as we look at the future.
And thorn, which is a challenge, the biggest challenge that you think we're facing right now?
I think the biggest challenge is the word risk. And I think it's a battle between risk management and risk avoidance. And I think all too often, previously, we've been in the mindset of risk avoidance, and our contracts were written that way. And, things are always set, well, this is in my scope. If I do something, it may open me to, and, kind of the defensive detailing approaches that we maybe had in the past. But risk management is saying, well, it's not that approach of, I can't do that because. It's like, well, how do I understand what I'm trying to deliver and how do I provide that in a way that's beneficial to the project? And I think that mindset shift is important. And I see the opportunities that, like, the AIA released their new contract documents, and there's this idea of, model reliability, a right of reliance on the digital content that we're creating, not that physical set of paper. And I think that starts to get to, what we can do moving forward. That's huge. Let's not focus on creating a set of paper documents. Let's use the content natively, digitally, that we're creating, and use that to enhance our project delivery process and the way we share information and communicate things, and not have that gap between stop and print, and maybe something's hidden in the metadata of an object, but give somebody that object so they can query it, understand it, utilize it. So I always think of risk as kind of the next remaining challenge that we have in getting to management instead of avoidance.
Okay. And as the advocate from DBIA's side for both, for the VDC adoption and for the design build adoption, how are you guys, first of all, are you guys supporting the industry which is outside of US? Are you doing that? And if that, what's the best way to, because I know that you guys have created some standard documents, some contractual languages. Yeah. All countries, all jurisdictions have their own stuff to deal with it, but how would you support them?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just like we talk about collaboration and teaming and communication being important, that applies for, even though we're the Design Institute of America, it's about expanding and, collaborating outside of those boundaries, because we all have information to learn from one another. Right. We all have experiences and best practices and opportunities where we've stubbed our toe that we say, don't ever do that again. So it's about sharing that information. I think that's one of the big things that we do well, and other organizations do also. But bringing those leaders together at events and online to share those experiences and communicate, that's going to be one of the big things that we do later this year. We have our annual conference, and I'm excited by the fact that we've created a co-located event for BIM and VDC and design builds, what we've named the VDC Leadership Exchange, which will coexist with our annual conference in November. So we're really looking forward to bringing leaders from around the country and hopefully around the world, our first take at it. But, we're going to, we have a great group of sessions, a lot of case study projects, a lot of learning opportunities, where we want to build an environment and a network of people to share those experiences regardless of location. So, we're looking to, cast a wide net and, find the other people like myself, yourself, and others who are passionate about the discussion to come and share those experiences.
Okay, great. And this is in November, right?
Yeah, it's in November in Las Vegas. I think it's November 2nd through 4th.
Yes. So yeah, I really hope I can attend that. Looking forward to, learn more about what your organization does, and especially the BIM and VDC initiatives that you guys have. All the best for that. And I've had a very educating podcast today. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Okay, thank you. And it's till we meet next time, online or in person. Thank you.
That sounds good. Looking forward to it.